I can't hear a thing.
Yeah,
I
I'm
can
not hearing anything.
I can hear all of you, but I can't hear the chamber.
Yeah,
I thought it was just me. I can't hear anything.
well, I think we've got our own little group here.
Yeah.
So
And I think we're all on YouTube. So
all those in favor say aye.
Wait. Okay,
Aye.
you folks on the screen.
Wait,
settle
everybody
down.
wave their hands on the screen. Maybe we can get their attention.
Let's get out
we've gone rogue. I think the president's addressing us now.
We're gonna start over this and do
Okay.
this again. And I'd like to say it maybe wasn't by accident. We excluded the folks on the screen, but now that we've got them. All right, we're gonna start over for the record, folks. We're not muted now. Senator McEwen, are you ready on Joint Conference Committee Report number 1 to House Bill 127?
Yes, Mr. President.
Please, and now read it in. please.
Senate message number 424, referencing House Bill 127, Public Health Amendments.
Thank you. Senator McEwen.
I move adoption of the Joint Conference Committee Report number 1 to House Bill 127 and ask for your vote of aye.
Want to explain a little there? And I'm going to have you speak up really loud. For whatever reason, my speakers up here have quit working. So I want to be able to hear everything really good and everybody else.
On the bill, when we went to conference committee, we've got about 2/3 of the way there. I think we've gotten far enough with some of the things we're putting into place that we should move forward with it. Some of the key changes, the health officers at all levels from state on down to district are no longer responsible for any of the mandates or anything that gets put into place. The legislature, however, is not primarily for oversight. That part's been taken out. The governor will have 60 days to do the mandates and the quarantines he sees fit, and then the process can start again and he can do it again. We kind of left the bill open on agreement that if it gets to be a problem, we still have the ability as a legislature to call ourselves in session and take action if need be. And that's really a synopsis of the change. One other thing I would add is it really does give power back down to the counties and the cities also. And with that, I would ask for your favorable consideration and staff for questions.
Thank you, Senator. Questions or discussion? Questions or discussion, House Bill 127, Joint Conference Committee 1. All right, the motion is the Senate do adopt Joint Conference Committee number 1, referencing House Bill 127, and vote aye. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
House Bill 127, Joint Conference Committee Report number 1. Roll call. Anderson? Aye. Baldwin? Aye. Beitman? Aye. Boner?
Senator Boner? are you out
Boner?
there? Excused.
Mr. President, Senator Boner was an aye. He is here.
Thank you. Boner, aye. Bouchard? Case? No. Cooper? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. Ellis? Aye. French?
Aye.
Aye. Furphy? Aye. Guru?
No.
No. Hicks?
Aye.
Aye. Hutchings? Aye. James? Aye. Kinsky?
Aye.
Aye. Cole?
Aye.
Aye. Cost? Aye. Landon?
No,
No. McCune? Aye. Nethercott? Aye. Pappas? No. Perkins?
No.
No. Rothfuss?
No.
No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler?
Aye.
Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? Aye. Wasserberger?
Aye.
Aye. Bouchard? Excused. President Dockstetter. Aye. Closing vote. Closing vote closed. House Bill 127, 23 aye, 6 no, 1 excused.
By your vote, you have adopted Joint Conference Committee 1 referencing House Bill 127. Senator Driscoll, are you ready on Joint Conference Committee number 1 to Senate File 130?
I am, Mr. President.
Let's have him read it in.
House Message number 407, referencing Senate File 130, charter schools.
Go ahead, does Senator move it and
Mr.
explain it?
Chairman, Mr. President, I move for adoption of Joint Conference Committee Report 1 on Senate File 130, reference House Message 407, and ask you to vote aye. And for further explanation, I call on the great negotiator, Senator Ellis.
Honored is the great negotiator, Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. President. So you'll recall that with the charter school bill that you initially saw in the Senate, the major component that we wanted to provide applicants for charter schools was a separate authorizer outside of school districts. And so when the bill crossed over, there were substantial changes made to that would require an election in the community where the charter school would be located. So after much visiting, we were able to restore the separate authorizer as the State Lands and Investments Board, but some of the other restrictions and requirements will be in place. So to walk you through some of those, I've emailed you a copy of what the tracked-in changes would look like in this final version that we're presenting to you. And so the first piece of it is if the State Lands and Investments Board is the authorizer, that any administrative fees that are necessary to recover the costs of the Department of Education related to the approval of those charter schools can be provided for, and they shall be deposited into the school foundation program. And so you'll see those changes on page 2 and 3. Moving through the bill, much of that remains unchanged, but if you go to page 8, these are some requirements that charter schools were to have. One is paragraph A, starting on line 13 through 17. And this language actually stays intact. It's crossed out here of how the amendments were adopted, but you'll see it later inserted on throughout the bill. This just clarifies, though, that this only applies to K through 12 charter schools and not preschool charter schools, which we do have a few of those in our operation. Moving on to page 11, you'll see a lot of stricken language that's been reinserted. And so right now, the Senate version had deleted some of the requirements for charter schools so that they would have more flexibility from state and local regulation. All of that we agreed would be fine to reinsert. And so you'll see lines 3 all the way through the end of the page through line 22 be reinserted. And so that's talking about certain requirements that might need to be waived. We're not changing that process at this point. However, at the bottom, you'll see where we were trying to exempt some of those requirements. That additional language would be deleted, going on to page 12. So on lines 1 through 5, the only remaining language that would be added would apply to all charter schools. And these are some prohibitions so that charter schools can't discriminate on any civil rights or health issues or anything of that sort. Going on to page 14. We also added some language in the Senate that would have allowed the State Land and Investments Board, if they were the authorizer, to use leased or unused or underutilized school facilities. That has been stricken. Moving through the bill, it's a big bill. The next provision that we discussed and agreed on occurs on page 30. And here you'll see where we had tried to strike some additional requirements, but those will be back in. This is talking about applicants and information that they need to include in their application. This would all be reinserted. So information about facilities be utilized, the manner in which alternative services would be provided, and that kind of information, as well as some indemnification language at the top of page 31, so that those considerations about liability and indemnity would be covered. But you'll see some language that we offered to be stricken starting on line 2 through line 9 would also stay out. Moving on. You'll see next pages are on page 34. Here we say that charter schools shall participate in the Wyoming retirement system. As it came out of the Senate, we wanted to allow charter schools to offer private pensions and have some other flexibility that you'll see on lines 6 through 14. We've removed that as a compromise. And then moving on to page 35, line 15, this is a limitation on full-time virtual charter schools. And so you'll see the continuation of what would that would look like on page 36, and this deals with funding. So beginning on page 36, line 5, charter schools, we initially thought would be eligible to receive 85% of ADM. The House changed it to 80%, and we thought that was an amount we could live with. And then you'll see the insertion of a new Romanet 2 that said any full-time virtual charter school would only be eligible to receive 65% of ADM. And so that's the limitation you'll see there. On the bottom of page 36, excuse me, you'll see that amendment I mentioned about making sure this only applies to K through 12 education. And then the final page that's in the PDF form, you'll see the creation of a new section 5. And this is a limitation saying that the SLIB, if they're the authorizer, will only authorize only 3 new charter schools at this time. You know, certainly we want to be cautious in how we move forward, and you know, we can always revisit this issue in the future. Section 6 would call on the Joint Education Interim Committee to study charter schools. And then finally 7, you'll see some modifications for the effective dates. More or less, most of it would come into effect on July 1st, 2022. So that pushes it out 1 more year. You know, certainly this is in much better shape. I think that the primary thrust that we were trying to achieve in the Senate was to get a separate authorizer, in this conference committee recognize that and achieves that. So more work to do on charter schools, but this is a really good first step, and I would urge your aye vote.
Questions or discussion? Questions or discussion? All right, the motion is the Senate do adopt Joint Conference Committee number 1, referencing Senate File 130, and vote aye. The Chief Clerk will please call the roll.
Senate File 130, Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1. Roll call. Anderson. Aye. Baldwin. Aye. Beitman. Aye. Boner.
Aye.
Aye. Bouchard. Aye. Case. No. Cooper. Aye. Driscoll. Aye. Ellis. Aye. French.
Aye.
Aye. Furphy. Aye. Guru.
Aye.
Aye. Hicks.
Aye.
Aye. Hutchings. Aye. James. Aye. Kinsky.
Aye.
Aye. Cole.
Aye.
Aye. Cost. Aye. Landon.
Aye.
Aye. McCune. Aye. Nethercott. Aye. Pappas. Aye. Perkins. Perkins.
Aye.
Aye. Rothfuss.
No.
No. Salazar. Aye. Schuler.
No,
No. Scott. Aye. Steinmetz. Aye. Wasserberger.
Aye.
Aye. President Dockstader. Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Senate File 130, 27 aye, 3 no.
By your vote, you have adopted Joint Conference Committee 1, referencing House Bill 130. Senator Landon, are you ready with Joint Conference Committee 1 to House Bill 254?
I am, Mr. President.
Reader, please read it in.
Senate message number 406, referencing House Bill 254, Transportation Computer System.
Senator Landon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move Joint Conference Committee Report number 4, message 406, referencing House Bill 254, Transportation Computer System. And Mr. President, this is work by the Joint Conference Committee to essentially rewrite the internal portions of the bill. You might remember this is the bill that we talked about to get started on an effort to replace a very aging computer system in the Department of Transportation. To kind of walk you through what this proposed conference committee report would do to the bill. First of all, the enactment clause, I think this will be helpful to remind all the senators what was in the bill to begin with. The rewrite takes place in the center portion of the bill. It's an act relating to the funding of government operations, providing funding for the replacement of a transportation computer system, creating an account, imposing an additional fee for driver's licenses, permits, and for duplicates and renewals, specifying that the distribution of fees, making conforming amendments, assigning duties to the Department of Transportation and the Department of Enterprise Technology Services for replacement of the revenue information system. So that's the enactment clause, Mr. President. Fundamentally, we rewrite what we are asking YDOT to do with respect to this transportation information system. It takes the prescriptive language out of the bill. You might remember we talked about putting a committee together, utilizing the resources of the University of Wyoming. That language comes out of there. You will find on the second page of the committee report essentially what language comes into the bill as it is further amended. And that language references that we want the Department of Transportation to work closely with ETS. You might remember that our Appropriations Committee was a little bit concerned about the bill as it arrived from the other chamber. I think we've corrected and answered some of those concerns. This bill, as I mentioned, Mr. President, does contain that $5 fee for licenses. You remember that we renew our driver's licenses every 5 years. That'll be an additional $5. Each of those 5 years, when you go in to renew your driver's license, it'll go from $35 to $40. And that money will be used to set aside in this account created by House Bill 254. Very important in the bill is the fact that the language from the Senate stays in place, which says that the Department of Transportation will not use any of that funding out of this account or out of any account to move forward with the replacement of this information system without legislative authorization for expending those funds. This will allow us to get started, fellow senators, in putting something aside so that eventually your Transportation Committee, ultimately the Appropriations Committee, can work closely with the department to get this computer system transformed and rebuilt. So would be glad to track that in further if you wish, Mr. President. I would ask for your aye vote. I think this is a good start. Thank you.
Any questions or discussion for the senator? Any questions or discussion? Motion is that the Senate do adopt joint conference committee report to House Bill, referencing House Bill 254, and vote aye. The chief clerk will please call the roll.
House Bill 254, Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1, roll call. Anderson? Aye. Baldwin? Aye. Beitman? No. Boner?
No.
No. Bouchard? No. Case? No. Cooper? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. Ellis? Aye. French?
No.
No. Furphy? Aye. Guru? Excused. Hicks?
Aye.
Aye. Hutchings? No. James? No. Kinsky?
Aye.
Aye. Cole?
Aye.
Aye. Cost? Aye. Landon?
Aye.
Aye. McCune? No. Nethercott? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Perkins?
Perkins, aye.
Aye. Rothfuss?
Aye.
Aye. Salazar? No. Schuler?
Aye.
Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? No. Wasserberger?
Aye.
Aye. President Dockstader?
Aye.
Aye.
Guru, aye.
Guru, excused to aye.
Hicks, I to no.
Hicks, aye to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 254, 19 aye, 11 no.
By your vote, you have adopted the Joint Conference Committee report to referencing House Bill 254. Signing of enrolled acts. Enrolled Act 92. House Enrolled Act 92.
House Enrolled Act number 92 being original House Bill 154. I beg your pardon, House Bill 158, an act relating to land use planning.
I'm about to sign House Enrolled Act 92, same being House Bill 158. So signed. Mr. Floor Leader, we still have some work out of 173, and we might, for the record, have a member of that committee doing a floor announcement, but we'll need some direction from you as well. But Senator Scott, could you give us an update?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, we are making progress. We're going to resume at 3:30. Give us time to prepare proposals.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Driscoll, do you want, now that you know the time, you want to give us some direction there?
Absent objection from Senator Scott or Chairman Scott, I would ask that we stand at ease until 4 o'clock. That gives them 30 minutes to do their 4:30.
4:30.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Senator Perkins.
Mr. President, your Joint Conference Committee on Senate File 121 met again in the last several hours and may probably undertake some in the next hour or so as we gather people together and their times to see if we can put a finish up on that Joint Conference Committee as well. So just want to make that announcement. People have to watch for that, and we'll be trying to put that one to bed as well. Thank you.
All right, folks, then we have 121, 173 out there. And the floor leader has called for 4:30 to give 173 some time, some workout time. So that's what we'll do. The Senate will stand at ease till 4:30. Please be patient.